There was a time in Detroit in the mid-'70s, a group of young bulls stood on Dexter and Richmond with gold chains, Adidas track suits, and fresh kicks on their feet, with some hollering out P-Funk, Murder One, Whip Cracker. Depending on what block you're on, you can hear them yell out Freak of the Week, Atomic Dog, Rolls Royce, Purple Haze, and many more. With them being that young, most think that they were just sitting around hanging out. Most didn't find out till later that they were getting into some serious money. You walk up to a fiend and ask who got the good dope. They'll tell you them young bulls over there. That's when you started to see Y.B.I. stamped on baggies when you went to cop. Young Boys Incorporated. 4 young fellas got together to form a team to traffic H. The 4 was already in the game, but they would come together to use each other's resources and take it to the next level. The Wonderful Wayne Davis had the crew under him called H2O. He would end up having the best pure heroin around. Milton Butch Jones, he was more of a stepper. He was carrying hits at the age of 15. Raymond Babyface Peoples, he had 7 Mile on lock. He was described as a tall, powerful enforcer, which he was charged of a 1975 murder he was acquitted of when the witnesses developed amnesia. And then you had Mark Block Marshall. Eventually they needed startup money to be able to purchase large shipments. Marshall ran into some insurance money from his family's death. It's been alleged that he had something to do with the murders involving his stepmom, father, and a nurse to get the money. I mean, if it's true, that's just someone you can't trust. But that's how he built a fearsome reputation. He was on trial 3 times and all 3 ended with a mistrial. He was all over the news and he didn't deny the rumors either. Now when he got the money, he was the man, he was the plug, and he was feared by many. Now Y.B.I. main source was John Milwaukee Jack Mays. Shortly after, their primary heroin supplier would be Reginald Davis. He was supplying Y.B.I. and Pony, bringing in $1 million a week from each parties. Davis had overseas connections from Turkey, Mexico, and Thailand. He would mix those products together in one cape to create a bang. That's when legendary blocks were born. Elmhurst Street, Tuxedo Street, Duane Street, legendary money blocks doing 90 on a bad day. Now, if you wanted to get down with Y.B.I., it wasn't a problem. You could start that night. But if you was from a different hood, you needed someone from Y.B.I. to vouch for you. Now, if you're the one that's giving that voucher, just know you are fully responsible for that person. So if they do anything to hurt the brand whatsoever, you will suffer the same consequences. You had young kids recruited to work. If caught by police, they're released to their parents or a couple months in juvie, then back to the block. Kids as young as 9 years old on the street pitching. I mean, kids getting so much money and didn't know what to spend it on. Like, what more can an 11-year-old want? He buys his food, sneakers, bikes. They just had stacks of money laying around. Kids being caught with $3,000 in cash. The police arrested a 19-year-old with $100,000 worth of gold on. You had kids going to school in limos. 15-year-olds buying Benzes. A 15-year-old went to the dealer pulling out 60 grand from a brown paper bag to purchase a Benz. Now on the streets, they operated corner to corner with walkie-talkies. You had your pitcher going car to car collecting the money. The runner would come grab the money, bringing it to the stash. You had the guy that watched the stash. You had another guy that was the lookout for police. Then you had the guy that was security that made sure they didn't get messed with or robbed. Now, if the runners weren't at their post on time, they were dismissed. So they had to be at their post between 9 and 9:30 a.m. Now, of course, being in that line of work, you had to get some muscle. There were different levels also. The wrecking crew would put beatings on the guys that were out of line, such as stealing, doing drugs, owing money, and dealt with guys from different hoods that didn't belong out there. You had the A-Team. The A-Team was a hit squad, called on for more serious issues. The A-Team and wrecking crew could be only dispatched by Butch Jones and Timothy Peoples, which was Raymond Peoples' brother. For the Y.B.I. organization, Sunday was payday. All crews would meet at a warehouse where they would be gambling, having drinks. Some would be paid a salary depending on what type of work they did. Now, the founder members would part ways due to ego, jealousy, and hate. Wonderful Wayne would hit the lottery and he started to move different. He got a hold of the best heroin around, but wouldn't sell it to any of the other guys. He was the type to give you a fish, but won't show you how to get your own. He was the man, traveling and setting up shop in Boston, moving with big pep. They started touching serious paper. The 2 members on Wayne's shit list was Raymond Baby Ray Peoples and Butch Jones. Now, Baby Ray put his hands on Wayne early on, and Wayne just been waiting to get his lick back. See, Wayne was slapped and didn't do anything at the time. Now with Jones, He was jealous of what Wayne had going on. Now, everyone wanted to be the big dog, and blood was actually shed between their crews. They would give each other gas any chance they got. Wayne would make bold moves like trying to muscle in on Kurt McGurk's block. It was already bad enough that Block and Butch people were switching sides to work with Wayne because they wanted to get money. And it was said that Block and Butch sometimes wouldn't even pay their workers. Now, Wayne and Big Pep had all the motion out Boston. Believe it or not, they were serving Bobby and Whitney. In 1979, y'all wouldn't believe this, you ready? Now, in 1979, flyers were passed out by kids for a free heroin giveaway on Dwayne and Dexter. Now, if that didn't get law enforcement attention, I don't know what did. But Butch Jones was getting cocky, and they were watching law enforcement just as much as they were being watched. So he knew they were coming from blocks away. By the time police got to the building, the drugs were already flushed or packages were already ran out. By 1981, Y.B.I. employees were 300 strong, all teens and preteens. They would be more consistent with handing out flyers in the neighborhood that stated brand name, price, day, date, and time of sale. Drugs was distributed using Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs, taxi cabs, scooters, and 10-speed bikes. Sales areas were patrolled by members of the A-Team and Jeep Wranglers. That same year, Raymond Peoples and Mark Marshall bumped heads over a female. Now things got heated, which caused Peoples to shoot Marshall. That caused Marshall to leave to California. Now, I did hear Marshall had a situation involving Butch that caused him to leave, but who knows? At the end of the day, he was ran out. September 28, 1982, Wonderful Wayne was gunned down a day after trying to muscle in on a drug block ran by Kurt McGurk, one of Butch Jones' workers, on top of being a member of the A-Team. Now, it was obvious that it wasn't about the money, because he was found with $5 to $6 grand on him. Some say it was revenge for attempting to kidnap his sister. It could have been multiple reasons. When Wayne died, James Cooper, aka Big Pep, stepped up. He took over and never looked back. As for Butch, he hooked up with a new connect, Sylvester Sil Murray, who was labeled one of the biggest drug dealers in the Midwest at the time. He was dealing since the age of 14 years old. Months later, a 17-year-old opened fire on 2 undercover narcotics agents, killing one and wounding the other. Law enforcement had to put a stop to that ASAP and set examples. May 18, 1983, Jeffersonian apartments were raided. $2 million worth of cocaine and $800,000 was seized. Like, damn, somebody didn't get paid that week. But police officers ended up harassing kids on every corner, and the pressure continued when a stash house was raided and they lost over $600 grand in cash they found in trash bags. Now, during the time, 300 Y.B.I. members were picked up and charged for operating a criminal enterprise. By that time, Butch already fled to Arizona. He would turn himself in after 3 months. He would be sentenced to 12 years in prison. Now, you might be wondering, why did he only receive 12 years in prison? Well, he decided to cooperate against his co-defendant, Sylvester Sil Murray. Now, during a 1982 intercepted conversation between Murray and Jones, Murray told Jones that the quality of narcotics he was having delivered to Jones could possibly kill the customers. Now, you think Butch Jones cared? This shows you the type of monster he was. August of 1985, Raymond Babyface Peoples was gunned down sitting in his car on the west side of Detroit. It was sad because he was in the middle of changing his life for the good. Butch Jones would get out in 1994 and go right back to his old ways until he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison in 2008 after pleading guilty to involvement in a continuing criminal enterprise involving accessory to murder and intentional killing. Now, we all know drug dealers destroy communities, but imagine how many childhoods this man destroyed while he sat back and got rich. Instead of watching cartoons, playing sports, playing with toys, or even, eating McDonald's, whatever kids do, they all had drug shifts. Some was runners, some were lookouts. Imagine getting older working a 9 to 5 and seeing that first paycheck after seeing thousands of dollars easy. It's a hard adjustment. And we all saw it with Alpo. He couldn't work a 9 to 5. He couldn't even stay away from the city. It's a rush. It's some type of high that they chase. A feeling many won't understand because unless you had it all, then lost it, anyone could say anything if they never had it. But, thanks for watching. Like the video, turn the notifications on. I'm going to get to all the videos requested eventually. Before you make a request, please check out my playlist because some people request videos I already covered. But I appreciate the support. Y'all be safe out there. I'm out.